What's up, guys? It's Young Medical Influencers, and today we're going to talk about what technology you should be using in social media. What's up, Greg? Good morning.
What's up, Sammy? How you doing, dude?
I'm doing good. It's a beautiful Sunday. We have work tomorrow.
I actually can't see you right now. For those of you guys that are checking in on audio podcast, Sammy's wearing a camo outfit for some reason.
You can't see me?
So, anyways, you can't
I'm
see
invisible.
Anyways, so we're gonna jump right into it today. So what I wanted to talk about today was what you need to get started on social media. Do you need that expensive camera, the mirrorless display, the DSLR? Do you need drones, GoPros, microphones? Are these necessary or are these just useful? So let's get started with the basic thing. I think everyone agrees that on social media you need some form of a camera. So Sammy, do you need that DSLR? Do you need, what do you film your YouTube videos on?
Okay, so we're talking about film. I guess it depends for me. It depends on what level you're at. I think if you're just starting out, you can take your iPhone camera, you can film yourself, you can set up a tripod on your iPhone and just talk to the camera, use its internal audio, and I think you'll be fine. That's a great way to start out. However, something has to be said about quality of audio, quality of lighting, quality of picture, because when you have a really nice picture quality, you're already at a bigger advantage than the person who's using less picture quality. So when you ask me what
I definitely agree.
When you ask me what I use for my YouTube, I do use a DSLR camera because I have that available to me. Do I have the best DSLR camera? No. So, what do you think? What are you using right now?
That's a really good point. So when I first started, I had a DSLR camera because I needed it for dentistry, but I didn't have any specific lens or mic or lighting. So I just set it up on a tripod and I let it run. And then as I was working on it, I realized, I'm like, you know what? Like, I can't hear myself that well. I hear the traffic in the background. So I went and I'm actually rocking the Rode mic on top of it, the middle one, not the most expensive, but not the cheapest. So that worked really well for me. And then, the more I used it, I'm like, I'm getting shadows. So then I went and I got a light. So it's one of these things where it's like, do you need that? No, absolutely not. But as you get more and more into it, it's kind of like everything we do in life. We're all professionals, so we strive to be the best at what we are. So you're sitting there, it's not like my subscribers were like, yo, I need you to get a mic or I need you to get a light. No, it's just me. I wanted it to look better. So I went and I got those things. But lighting is incredible. Lighting is so, so important. I think more important, you can shoot on the Ecamm. You can shoot on the iPhone and have really, really good results if you have the right lighting. And I think if you have poor lighting, you can shoot with the world's best camera and you will not get good results.
So yeah, I think I totally agree with that. I think if you have poor lighting, it can make the video look like just complete shit. It would just look absolutely horrible. And if you have good lighting, like a softbox or something, then you look better. And it also makes you feel better when you're posting a video about yourself. You want to look your best self. So what type of lighting are you using right now? Are you using a softbox? Are you using the ring light? Some people have those ring lights where they put in their camera and you can see it in their eyes. What do you think is the best type of lighting? Oh, are you using?
I'm actually using the ring light, yeah. So right now I have two umbrella lights that are kind of aimed at me at a 45-degree angle. Those aren't necessary, and I actually don't even think they're making a difference. But you know what? I have them, so I'm trying to use them. And my baby is my ring light. That thing is incredible. It lights up the room. It lights up the room really, really well. And I also behind it have natural lighting. So I think I'm kind of overdoing it right now. But if you're trying to film at night, you definitely need at least a ring light. They have the ring lights. I'll link it in the description of this podcast. I'll link everything I talked about in the description of this podcast, actually. But the ring light that I purchased it's like a nice big one, so you can fit your DSLR actually in it. They have mounts for iPhones. But the way we're recording this podcast, I think Sam and I both have the same camera. We're using just a webcam. It's like a 1080p Logitech webcam. It's like the 920 or something like that. It's not the highest end, but it's sufficient. You just want to have good enough quality that it doesn't get in the way.
Yeah.
But what do you use for lighting? Are you using anything particular right now?
So once again, I think the most important lighting is natural lighting. Just using natural outdoor light, filming when it's light outside. But like you said, that can be limiting. If there's no natural light, then you have to rely on your other light sources. So yeah, I use I use a little soft box. It's basically a high powered, I think, like LED light. I'll put the link to it in the description. But basically, it has a little filter on the top. It evenly distributes the light across the room, and it illuminates my face well enough where you can see me clearly. Because if you have dark images, it starts to get pixelated and you can't see the person clearly.
It really looks bad. I tried doing that in my early videos and photos, and it just doesn't look good. It really doesn't. But when it comes to the camera, would you recommend, if someone, like, let's say they're getting started on Instagram, do you think Instagram needs to be shot with a DSLR, or do you think iPhone is enough for like photos on Instagram?
Yeah, so Instagram, so now we're talking about like photos and stuff like that. You know what? No, because now you have the iPhone 10 and they have that portrait mode. I think, is that what it's called?
Portrait mode.
Portrait mode. So now you're starting to get, you're starting to get that depth of field where you can get the person in frame and then blur out everything else in the background. And that's the beauty of the DSLR. That's why everyone's trying to go to DSLR, because they want that quality where you see the product clearly, the person, and then blur out everything. So I think even now, I think some big Instagram accounts, that's what it's portable. You take your iPhone rather than carrying a bulky DSLR camera. Like, what do you think?
And you know what? The main thing about being on Instagram is you have to be always on it, right? You have to always just be putting stuff out there. And if you are using a DSLR, you're going to limit yourself. If it's in your pocket, you just pull it out, snap a story, and stay relevant, you know? So I'm a huge advocate. What's it called? Instagram, it should be done with a camera, because that's the purpose of it. Don't overcomplicate it. YouTube.
Do you mean an iPhone or a camera?
iPhone. Did I say
gotcha.
camera?
You said camera.
Yeah, Instagram should definitely be done on a iPhone. Sorry. Now, if you're hopping onto like YouTube, I still think that the iPhone is sufficient, and I think that a lot of people actually, vlog and do everything with their iPhone. I actually have some of my videos. I have a vlog that everyone commented on being really good. I shot that on my iPhone. Not even the X. I shot it on like the 6S that I had before this. It worked out fine. But if you're trying to get out there and really stick out, I think that you should definitely have some sort of at least a microphone if you're explaining content. Ideally like a DSLR. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I think that if you're going to use a camera as an excuse for not producing, stick with the iPhone and just go. Don't use it as a crutch.
So I like how you mentioned the microphone, something we haven't touched upon yet. And I mean, what do you think about audio? Is audio even important? I know there's some people out there that have thousands of dollars of audio equipment just to capture the voice clearly, but is it efficient enough to use an iPhone? And what about like if there's wind outside? I mean, can you talk to me a little bit about what do you use for your audio equipment?
I think audio is something that if you have an extremely expensive setup, no one cares. But if you don't have any setup, everybody cares. So like if you're recording and there is that in the background, the traffic, the honks, people talking, that will make people very, very annoyed and likely to not either subscribe, follow, or any of those things. I think that's a huge disaster. But if you get something like simple, I had this cheapo one off Amazon. It was like $30. It worked okay for the time being, but I lived on a trafficy street when I was filming a lot of my videos, and every honk that went by, every car that revved its engine, it picked that up instead of me. Drove me nuts. I was like, you know what? Let's just go one step up. And I got the Rode, the middle tiered one. Now for this podcast, I got a specific standalone like Yeti mic, because the other one doesn't really have a stand, doesn't have the direction. So I figured, it's a podcast. Audio quality is king in this. So get yourself a mic. It doesn't have to be the one that's out of this world, but realize if you're filming something that's like where there's wind, like if you're trying to film outside, you need a microphone. It's not like an option, because that's going to totally murder your quality. Granted, I mean, you're really good at this, but post-processing is really important too.
Yeah, so let me ask you this, I'm just curious, where do you rank technology in the spectrum of important things? Like we're talking about content, technology, audience, demographic, community. I mean, where do you put technology in all the things that make a social media important?
I'd put it on the bottom third, to be honest with you. I think that it's definitely ranked, but I don't think it's more important than your content. I think your content is super important, but granted, your content is limited by how good your quality is. So you can't say that, oh, I'm shooting with a flip phone, but I have really good content. No one's going to care because it's painful to watch almost, right? But I think that it definitely, the difference between good and great isn't as substantial as your content. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that it makes a huge impact?
So the way I look at it, I think of like some people out there that just have such interesting content that it doesn't matter what they're filming with because it's so entertaining, people are watching. But, all things have to line up. Your content has to be good. You want it to be excellent, but sometimes it's good. And then if you have good technology with it and then you have good audio, then now you're putting a package that can be distributed to people and people can listen to it and they're enjoying it. So I think you have to. That's a really good point. You have to put all things together and you have to create a package that is entertaining, that's educational, the content's good, and also the technology is good. So I think that's where I stand with that.
So let's hear your ranking. Camera, lighting, audio. What do you think what do you rank those?
Oh my God, that is so hard. You know what?
I'm going to go with lighting, audio, camera.
I would probably do lighting, camera, and then audio. Because I think audio in post-production, you can distort it, you can make it sound better. But lighting, if you don't have good lighting at the beginning, in post-production, it doesn't matter. You can't fix it.
That's so true.
If you're overexposed or you have there's too much light on your face, you can color saturate it. You can take the blues and the yellows and you can make yourself look good. So, I think that maybe is a good segue to editing software.
What do you use for post-processing? That was about to ask you.
So how about this? Why don't we start with, because I think we both use like Final Cut Pro, we use some advanced software, but what about for the person who's just starting? Do you, like, when you're making videos, do you need all that, jazz?
I don't think so. I really don't. I know a lot of people that just use like iMovie or whatever comes with the computer. There really isn't the need to go crazy with your post-processing in the beginning. Granted, as you move along, you're going to start having things that you want to achieve that you just can't with the quality of what is provided, right? So you're going along and you want to do something that's above the pay grade of iMovie. Then you're going to start dabbling into like Final Cut. That's kind of how I transitioned. I didn't start off with this crazy editing software, right? Personally, I love Final Cut. It does what I want it to do and more, and sometimes too much more. Sometimes I'm overcomplicating my life by trying to make my editing that much higher. But do you think that Final Cut or like Premiere Pro, or do you think those things are necessary for the new? Do you think that it's a steep learning curve, right?
So I think first of all, like if we go way back to when I was in 6th grade making movies, I started with like Windows Media Player. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
like,
right.
It was Windows Media, or iMovie was just horrible. And like I think the key is just to pick up whatever you can do. Start with free software. Start with what you have. Free software. Understand how to cut a clip, how to stitch clips together, and just learn. And then I think that anyone can learn anything on YouTube. I didn't know anything about Final Cut Pro. By the way, for those of you out there who don't understand, Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere, these are video editing softwares that we can edit our video and make it look good, stitch it together, put like subtitles and stuff. That's what we're using today. I'm using Final Cut Pro. Greg uses Final Cut Pro. And there's so many programs out there. But I think what I'm trying to say is...
there is no need to use something that much.
Yeah, you don't need to use it. I think look for whatever is available. There's free software out there. Go to the App Store, type in video editing software, download it, and then learn on it. Go to YouTube. Watch videos about how people are doing it. It's going to take you 2 days to cut a clip, which now takes us 1 second. And then once you learn that, it's going to take you 1 second. So it's all about just educating yourself and starting the process. I mean, what do you think?
The thing is we talk about we're on social media to educate, other people. But there are other people that are on social media to educate us. So take advantage of it as a resource. If I don't know how to do something when I'm editing, I just hop over to YouTube and there's demos and it's so quick. You learn so fast. But there's something to be said that if you're filming on your iPhone, that's what we're recommending, there are editing softwares that are just apps. You just mix them up, chop it up, put them all together on your phone. You don't even need a computer, right? So I guess the big take home is, if you're using technology as a crutch and a reason to not get started, ignore that whole belief. Just do something. Because you know what? You don't know what you don't know, right? So you're going to start and you're going to film and say, you know what? I don't know how to get this lighting right. You're going to go on YouTube. You're going to learn about lighting. You're going to purchase the light back. The lighting looks great now. But the audio's off. How do I fix the audio? Then you develop. That's how you develop. And the cost shouldn't be the factor.
Yeah. So let me say this, because I expect there to be an audience of people who are just starting out, and I also expect there to be an audience who may know a little bit more. Let's start with photos. I mean, what type of photo editing software are you using right now? How do you change exposure, change the saturation? Are you using something advanced, or what are you doing right now?
To be honest with you, I take all my photos. Okay, different. My photos of myself, I just take on my iPhone. My patient photos, I shoot my DSLR because I have it in the clinic, right? But the ones I'm doing on my phone, I edit using, what is it called? I'm going to pull it up really quick. It's just called Snapseed. It's a free app on the iPhone. Yeah, it's great. That. And you can just do some like healing effects and some like things like that. Filter-wise, I just try to stick with the same filter on Instagram. I don't let it overwhelm it, but I put a little bit so that all my photos kind of look similar. I mean, I'm not the pro at this. There are a lot of people that I want to bring onto this podcast that are phenomenal at making their Instagram look, similar, and make it look like all the photos are kind of shot in the same setting. That way, when you look at their gallery, it looks great. But when I'm editing photos just like on the go, I just use the app. It doesn't have to be that complicated. Just do it, write up my caption. I get annoyed of writing the caption on the phone because it kind of gets redundant. I type it on my computer and I just shoot it to myself and I upload that. But now photos on the computer, totally different beast. I use Photoshop, and I think it's the software to use. You don't have to use it, but I think that software, I think Photoshop is really easy to do small things with and really hard to do complicated things with. But the learning curve for the complicated things is really steep. But to do simple things like cropping and changing the brightness contrast, it's relatively simple. And there's thousands, if not millions, of videos on YouTube teaching you how to do just that.
Yeah, so Photoshop's an incredible software. I think for anyone who's really wants to take editing photos, adding captions, changing contrast, making like a unique image, you have to get Photoshop. I think it's about, what is it, $300? I think it's $300 on the App Store if you're a MacBook user. I'm not sure. Can Windows people use Photoshop?
They can. I think Windows actually started. Okay. I think Photoshop actually started as a Windows software, if I'm not mistaken. And then I think that it's great for editing, and I have to give some homage to Illustrator because that's my primary, not editing software, but I use Adobe Illustrator almost the same, if not more, than Photoshop. And it's not for editing per se, but like if you want to do logos and branding, we'll talk about that in another video, but the logo for this podcast was made on Illustrator.
Yeah,
the
you did
logo
awesome.
For my own channel, all on Illustrator, because it's vectors and it's simple art for the artist. You draw on there, but on Photoshop you edit. That's kind of the mindset that I have. If you want to create, Illustrator. If you want to edit, Photoshop.
And I would just say one extra point, and then we'll be done with the post-process editing. One thing I've started using now is I believe it's Lightroom. That's also a very easy program to start using.
I've never used Lightroom. Is it?
So it's really easy to use.
What do you use Lightroom for?
So Lightroom is just purely for batch editing photos, making like exposure, contrast. It's like Photoshop, but it's purely dedicated to like changing the contrast of photos, making it look really good. You can focus, radial focus, linear focus. It's an amazing program. And Greg talks about Illustrator. I don't have a lot of information on Illustrator, but I'm learning. I'm going on YouTube. I'm learning Illustrator, After Effects. I want to learn After Effects, how to make logos. I mean, here's the deal. Just to everyone listening, I think this is really important. If you learn the software, you spend $300 on Final Cut Pro, or you spend a little bit of time, it's much cheaper than paying a marketing person $5,000 to do it. Over and over again. You're going to spend probably $100,000 on marketing over the span of your lifetime unless you learn to do it yourself. It's a nominal fee, and then you're in control.
What? Yeah, and that's the key. You're in control. You get these marketing experts, and they have the way of doing something, and that's their style, but it's not necessarily your style. And what you'll notice is, yeah, it might look great for you, but if you start looking at all the different companies that use the same marketing person, they all look similar. And you know what? You lose it. You lose your edge as an individual. And we, guys, like it or not, we live in an era of personal branding. Yeah, preach. We live in an era of personal branding. And it's critical that when you're putting something out there, it's you. It's not someone else's vision of who you are. It's truly you. So I think there's a lot to be said about all of these things. How you film, how you edit, how you light up the room. That speaks to how you are. Granted, like we've said in other videos, you don't have to stay the same. You have to adapt. Okay. But you have to be you.
Let me just give a little anecdote, because I really want people to understand this point. There are people producing websites out there that will charge, like me as a dentist, charge $5,000, $10,000 to make a website.
Dude, I've heard that it's $50,000 some websites nowadays.
Yeah, $50,000 for like if you're doing really amazing. And so like, and guess what? They take the same template and they go to all these dentists in your area and they make the same exact website for everyone, and it looks exactly the same. And then you don't even know how to use it. It looks great.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it looks great, but it looks the same. And people know that. They're looking, it's like, oh my God, this looks the same. Like there's no style. And I think it's important. Yeah. You want to express yourself exactly how you want to express yourself. It takes a long time to figure out how to do it. But once you understand it and you have the power, the tools are in your hands, then you have full control. And there's nothing better than having full control over the content that you put out there for your business, for your personal brand, for anything. So I'm really like, I'm passionate about it.
No one's going to care. Yeah, exactly. No one's going to care about your website or your videos as much as you do. And that's really what it comes down to. So really, really quick, few things I just want to touch on as extras. I don't think these are by any means necessary, but I think it's really important. Sami, where do you think, like, I don't know, all the excessive things stand? Like, do you think like the drones, the gimbals, the music in the background of videos, the music in the background is a little more important, but do you think that these have a place in the beginner's realm? Can you start with it? Or is it something that you should grow to? Or is it something that's just for fun it's elective almost?
You know what? There's so many fun tools out there, and that get, for you and I think we get excited about like drone footage flying through a mountainside and like cool music, like electronic music in the background, and like you said, I think you just recently got a gimbal, a gimbal for those of you that don't know, is stabilizes your footage, so you get this beautiful like one scene where it slowly pans up and it gives you beautiful footage. So, I wouldn't start out with all these specialty video, because you have to understand the basics before going into like a specialty field. Like the drone, if you don't understand how to compose a shot, then you're just going to fly a drone into a tree. You don't even know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? It's just not going to look good.
Oh yeah, like that one time in dental school when I bought a drone side story. I bought a drone for Sami for his birthday, and then I was like, let's go outside and try it. So he goes up like 1 foot. I'm like, come on, man up. I took the drone, I fly it up high. The wind comes and I get it stuck in a tree. Not even day one.
Day 1 hour. Day 1 hour. He takes his gift to me, a drone, and crashes it. And I'm like, I'm not dealing with this. I leave. He spends like the whole rest of the day. And mind you, there's still school going on. He just ditches school and takes a fishing pole to try and get out. And yeah, guess what? We never worked that drone again, just so you guys know.
I got it down. It just didn't work. Anyways. That's besides the point. But drones are cool. Like I don't personally have a nice drone. Sami, you have like what drone do you have?
So I have a drone. I have it's a basic DJI. It's a standard version. Didn't cost me much. You know how many times I've used it? Maybe like 10 times in my life. But it's a tool. And if I go on vacation, and I want to show the scenery, I can use that tool and it can look really good. So, so I think it's cool tools to have. I don't think it's good for the beginner, but I think if you're more advanced, you want to have photography tools at your disposal, then go ahead, experiment with it. This is a nominal cost than paying someone else to do it for you.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true.
But
I guess it goes back to that concept of paying someone else.
Yeah.
And then last thing I want... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. It's you.
So the last thing I wanted to touch on is basically the music and the background sounds, because I think that's something that's really stepped my game up from being okay to good, because there's a lot of like dullness in the videos where there's just this background like static, very light, but a very light static, and putting music into it was awesome. But I had a terrible time trying to find audio that was appropriate for my video that was also copyright friendly and not going to get slammed down. And Sammy, you recommended some awesome resources. So can you share that with some of the listeners?
Absolutely. So music copyright is one of those things that if you're a YouTuber and you want to put music on there, you can't just pick out any song and put it over your video, because they will either take your video down or you won't be able to monetize it later on in your life.
Or they'll mute you, which is even worse.
Or they'll mute you. So it just destroys the video. Yeah. And I've had some videos I made where I made that mistake early on. So anyways, the software that I found is called Epidemic Sound. So we'll post that down below in the description. And it gives you have to pay a fee. Like, I think, what is it, Greg? $15 a month?
It's $15 a month, but yeah, it's $15 a month.
So it's $15 a month, but you have this wide selection of amazing music that you can underlie your videos with. And music, it just gives you another way to express yourself. It's expressivity. It gives you another way to share, like, this is my music, this is my style. And it's, all of my videos, except probably this podcast, is going to have an underlying music in it. So, I mean, how do you look at music enhancing your video experience for your Braces Explained YouTube series?
So I definitely use it. I mean, for parts where I'm just showing things, it's really boring if there's no sound. In the beginning, I just used to like Google search like free, copyright free, like royalty free music, and I would just search on websites, and they have some, but there's no way to like find the right type. Like it's either going to be like with audio and with like vocals, and you don't want vocals, you want an instrumental. So it's really, really hard. And this place you got me on there. Actually, I'm paying the monthly fee on there because I think it's worth it. But you recommended, doesn't YouTube have some free ones that you used to show me?
Oh, yeah. So when I first started way back in the day, I didn't know anything about this. So YouTube provides copyright-free music. I believe you type it in Google, YouTube music policy. If not, we'll put it down in the description. And you can use their music if you're just starting out. It's completely free. You don't have to pay anything. Now, the music, is it the best? No, it's not the best. It's kind of, the music's a little bit weird. It takes a long time to find a style that you might like, but it's free, and that's great. And you can use it. So you don't need, that shouldn't be a limiting factor when you want to put music into your videos. So,
all right, Sammy, I think that all this advice that we gave was really great. I think the bottom line, take-home message is just get started. You'll get the technology, you'll get the software, you'll get things as you move along, and always stay curious as to how to improve and how to take your video experience or your photo experience or any experience to the next level. The fact that you're on this podcast means that you are already taking the first step of what you need. And I think that that's awesome.
So let me
add the next. Yeah.
No, go ahead. Talk about what we're talking about next.
So I think the next thing we should talk about is trying to, once you got all your technology and are ready to get started, it's how to develop a brand and how to define an audience that will be receptive to that brand, right? Because I think that's something that's incredibly challenging, and I don't think I can speak highly enough of it, or enough really to the level. It's almost just trying to go out there and shotgun approach, put it out, see what you get back. And I think that that's going to be a really interesting discussion between Sammy and I. If you guys have any, positive comments about this podcast or interested in something that we haven't touched on yet or in upcoming videos, I think please leave them in the comments below. Wherever you found this podcast, this video, please share it. And if you find that it's useful, let other people know. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but Sam, you have anything in closing?
Well, Greg, I think we ended on a book recommendation last time. How about we do a Netflix show that you enjoy? So what Netflix show are you watching right now?
You know what? I'm in the middle of one right now. I'm not a huge Black Mirror fan.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
I took it right out of your hands. That new one that has an interactive approach, I think that's really taking, like we were talking about today, taking it to the next level. For you guys that haven't watched it, it's a new episode of Black Mirror on Netflix, and it has decide your own journey. So you click, it'll ask you a question like, do you want to eat this cereal or that cereal? And you pick one, and the storyboard changes accordingly. It's really neat. And I just jacked yours Netflix recommendation.
That's okay. So it's, by the way, it's a Bandersnatch. For those of you interested, Bandersnatch. It's a little bit different, but interactive experience, pretty awesome. Either way, guys, I really enjoyed this conversation. Greg, it's always a pleasure talking to you. So Dr. Sami, over and out.
You just jacked my Dr. Greg out. I'll see you guys next time.
See ya.